Hey everyone, and welcome to SkillCapped. My name is Dr. Zora, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the top 5 tips to dominate on ICEBOX. I know, ICEBOX isn't exactly a favorite for a lot of players, but the issue is we have no control of what maps we play, so when ICEBOX comes up, we want to be prepared for it. With ICEBOX being a larger map compared to the rest of the pack, excluding Breeze, which is even crazier big, we need to implement different tactics and strategies to ensure that we take advantage of that space and therefore increase our odds of winning. These 5 tips will help make ICEBOX a much more comfortable map for you to play and potentially even a map that you enjoy. So without further ado, let's jump right on into it. Starting things off, we have our question of the day for y'all. Let us know in the comments below on which map in Valorant is your favorite and which one is your least favorite. We're curious what our community enjoys playing the most and least. Some players may have come to this video because they dislike ICEBOX, while others may enjoy it but are looking to improve their play and strategy on the map. We've gotten some surprise answers to this question and want to see what you guys think as well. Jumping right into our first tip, if you want to dominate on ICEBOX, you absolutely have to take advantage of high ground. There are a ton of areas on the map that you can get on top of, and a lot of players aren't ready to peek those higher angles or straight up aren't used to seeing it. As a result, their crosshairs are going to be off, their aim is going to be much worse at those angles, and that will give you a competitive edge on those fights. To give you a few examples, some of the common areas you can get high ground on are pipes and rafters on the A side, as well as green containers on the B side. Kitchen as well as the platform above site are also other fantastic positions to hold the B site. In particular, we've caught many players off guard in these positions when they're going for that site hit. Being on high ground really provides an additional surprise factor against your opponents that helps you win more fights. Some of the agents that really do well on ICEBOX are Raze, Omen, and Jet, and the reason being is that they all have abilities that allow them to get into these high ground positions and more. For example, some of the angles that you can only get to with these 3 agents include the top of tube, yellow containers, as well as the container on the left side of A. These areas provide insane off angles that will make it very difficult for enemies to kill you off, while making them easy targets for you to kill off. In particular, the top of tube is one of the most powerful positions as it gives you access to the B site, kitchen, ramp, and mid pallet where you can catch players off guard. If you can, try to play in high positions if possible to maximize your advantage. Speaking of advantages, if you want to have the best odds of winning your games and absolutely dominating the competition in Valorant, then go to skillcapped.com to unlock our hyper improvement system that will teach you everything you need to blast through the rankings in Valorant. The link will be provided in the description below. Going to tip number 2, we highly recommend playing aggressively on defense. Now this doesn't mean to rush in like a maniac, but you want to go for small informational plays to try to figure out what the attackers are doing. If you don't do this, then you end up giving a lot of control to the attackers where they can comfortably move their way up onto the site and set up their plays. The problem with allowing the enemy team to do this is that it makes it much more harder for you as a defender to hold the site if the enemy gets too close. With how big ICEBOX is, it'll take a very long time for your teammates to rotate over to help you out. Here's an example of Sentinels going for an aggressive play onto the A site. We see Shazam and Tens take the ropes up onto pikes and they peek down onto A. Shazam ends up whiffing the shot, but Tens lands a perfect headshot to get that initial pick and then they back out. Right at the start of the round, they already have a man advantage and they also have information on where the rest of the team is likely at. Now it's important to note that only Phoenix was found out, so Sentinels is still wary of version 1 rotating out. However, we also see an aggressive push from Sick down middle to see if that is the case. He finds out that they aren't rotating out, which means that they're likely committing to A. As a result, Sentinels swarm onto the A site and makes it pretty much impossible for version 1 to go for it. To give another example, we see Sick going down for a push down tube again, and he finds himself a very sick off angle position for anyone that decides to lurk down mid later into the round. Tens also goes for an aggressive long range peek on the A site, and with those 2 moves, Sentinels quickly found themselves at a 2-man advantage. With these 2 positions, it's likely the rest of version 1 is around this area, so Sentinel then sets himself up accordingly based on that information. You can see that version 1 didn't even get a chance to touch the site before they lost players, and that is due to these aggressive moves and plays. You don't necessarily want to overextend and push very deep, but going for those small peaks will really help you stand a better chance at taking rounds on the defender side. Tip number 3 goes right along with our second tip, and that is making sure that you block off choke points. Like we said, ICEBOX is a big map, and it's hard to spread out all your players to try to defend every single position. Because of this, being able to block off certain areas so you don't have to worry about them will really help to reduce the number of positions that your team needs to be looking at. For example, tube is an area that is very important to hold as it gives attackers options to split push onto B or to flank players through spawn. If you have a Sage on your team, which we recommend having, you can block this area off with Barrier Orb. With that in place, you can now focus your attention under tube, which is much easier to hold compared to trying to alternate between the 2. This also lets you play closer to the B site and spawn so that you can rotate faster as needed. Killer's turret is also very good at trying to spot players early. You can place it on top of the left containers on A or on top of the small box in the middle of the site to spot out players from very far back. This then gives time for your team to rotate accordingly while they're trying to shoot the turret down before pushing. Viper is also one of the strongest agents on ICEBOX because of her ability to effectively block off areas of the map. We see Zombs here using the wall horizontally across yellow containers to deny enemy vision. Along with that, Zombs also places a smoke down on the site to make Vikings hesitate on whether they want to go for the plant or not. This greatly slows down the push from Vikings, giving ample time for Sentinels to rotate over and absolutely dominate the round. Oh, and did I mention that Sentinels were on a save round here? Area denial is insanely powerful when done correctly on this map and can completely turn around on its head even if you have lesser equipment, so make sure to try to do this as much as you can. Going into tip number 4, this may seem a little questionable, but you're going to want to heavily stack around the A site on both attack and defense. The reason for this is the site is pretty tight knit, and as a result it really heavily favors those who charge in and look for fights. Because of this, going in hard with your team can actually work quite well on both ends, and particularly on the attacker side. Whoever plays more aggressively tends to win out on the A site. Sentinels actually does this quite often on both attack and defense. In multiple rounds they have 3 players on A, 1 on mid, and 1 on B. This way you already have a good number of players on the A site already, and if need be, the middle player can also rotate to A easily as well to prepare for a hard rush from attackers. Sentinels aggressively looks for fights while Vikings play the round fairly slow, and as a result they got crushed since they weren't able to overwhelm the site. In contrast, this clip shows 100 Thieves going in hard on the attacker side to push the A site. As a result, they get into multiple aim duels and frags are traded back and forth. In the end though, 100 Thieves takes out all the players that are defending the site just by pure force and numbers advantage. With these hard hits, things are definitely going to get wild and hectic, but if you're going in as a unit, you'll find that power and numbers will really help you get into the site. Now this doesn't mean that you should go in hard at A every single round, but for the most part, you'll actually find pretty good success doing so until the enemy team adapts their own setup, in which you'll then have to change things up before reverting back to a hard A hit. A is much more commonly hit on ICEBOX, so it tends to be worthwhile to put more players there on defense, but also on attack as you'll see action there quite often. Last but not least, this is going to be one of the more difficult tips, but if done right can really take you to another level on ICEBOX, and that is having a lurker. A lurker is a player that tends to split up from the pack and do their own thing. While the rest of your team is making noise in one area, the lurker tries to sneak behind enemy lines to go for the flank. The key to being a successful lurker though is really communicating with your team and being patient. If your team hasn't pulled any rotations, then you won't really be able to lurk anywhere as the enemy team is defending all the positions. Your team will need to push and cause defenders to move, which will then create gaps in their defense where you can lurk and stab them in the back. A particular player that really does this well is Steel from 100 Thieves. In this clip, he pushes through 2 with Ethan and gets a 2 versus 1 duel onto the first player. From there, the rest of 100 Thieves start to charge into the B site. However, Steel stays behind in kitchen to catch off further rotations. He's in a position that is unlikely to be checked, as the enemy will be expecting players to be more closer to the site. ICEBOX actually ends up suspecting this, knowing how Steel plays, and end up using a showstopper to clear him out. However, it was because Steel was in a tricky position to deal with that they had to consider it and blow Raze's ultimate to even give a chance of taking back kitchen. To give another example of what lurking looks like, we see Sudakos playing around in middle and B while the rest of the team goes towards A. As a result, he catches a rotating player off guard and frees up the B site for his team. Unfortunately, the spike player got caught during the rotation, but nonetheless the lurk was perfect as it caught Zombs with his knife out. And it was all possible due to the distraction that his team made. If you play off your team, you'll be able to get really successful lurks that can really help take map control on ICEBOX. Wait for your team to make some moves, which will then give you the cue to start lurking and find those openings in the defense that you can exploit. Alright, we hope you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't already, make sure to comment what your favorite and least favorite maps are in Valorant. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get more premium guides just like this one with one goal in mind, helping you become a better player. We here at SkillCapped want to thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next. I'm Dr. Zora, and good luck out there.